Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone, I'm Shari Oswald. They call me Shortcut Shari. It started out as kind of a joke with the sales team at one of the training companies I worked with, and it stuck. So I branded it, it's my blog, it's my website. The hardest thing to remember is how to spell my name, which is S-H-A-R-I. I joke that I answer to any spelling, but the internet isn't quite as forgiving as that. So feel free to connect with me on Twitter. I do a Tip Tuesday. They're quick tips and tricks that I do every Tuesday. We're also going to be doing Waffle Wednesday webinars. My hashtag since Ignite a couple of years ago when they went virtual is like, where's the waffle? 95% of the people that use Microsoft Office technologies have to just get their job done. And all of these technology conferences are so admin, coder, governance, Azure centric. What about the rest of us that are just trying to get through our day, right? So hashtag where's the waffle, and that's my mission, is to bring back, hey, let's make people empowered and be able to use the tools that are available to them in the most effective way so they're not overwhelmed by them. Sorry. So this session, we were kind of talking earlier, last year when everybody kind of got thrown into the deep end of the pool, we did a bunch of buzz sessions, lunch and learns, and for the federal government, and there were, one of them in particular came back and said, everybody in our organization needs to know what you just told us. And you get Teams, you glance down the the left-hand rail, right? And it says calls, it says phone, it says chat, it says files, and people get stuck right there, right? They think that's all that Teams does, and they don't understand everything else it can do. Then they start evolving through that knowledge and realizing, oh, I can put my files in here and we can collaborate on them. Cool. Where'd that file go? Where does that file live? They don't understand. Teams is an umbrella that sits on top of all of Office 365 that gives you that capability for whatever tool that you need for that job. And until you realize that Teams is the frosting on the cake, you don't get to the cake, right? So we're going to talk about the cake today. Sound like a good plan? All right. I am not a huge slide person. My stuff is mainly demo. This is my contact information. I do the customer immersion experience. I've been doing that for 11 years, and I've been a boot camp trainer. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, and I specialize in productivity. I'm also a Microsoft Office Specialist Master, which means that I've taken some tests and I know some stuff, but in reality, I learn new things every day because Microsoft is evolving constantly to adapt and make things more useful for us. Sometimes they make it a little harder in my opinion, but that's a whole other story. All right, I'm also a LinkedIn Learning instructor. I have 3 courses. I used to have 4, but they deprecated my project management one, so bummer. But I have 3 courses. If you'd like to have a free 30-day trial, you can use my bit.ly and you get a free trial of LinkedIn Learning. And you can learn anything on LinkedIn Learning. Anybody not been on LinkedIn Learning? No, okay. When I was recording there, they had this woman that was recording a class on how to draw people, like as an artist. Like that's a thing, I guess. So they have a whole course on how to draw people, which I can't draw, so. My company is Power Up Learning, and we are not only trainers. Our passion, again, is adoption and change management. We're speakers, we're change agents, we're trainers, we develop content, we're authors. So if you're interested in any of that, we're actually rebranding right now. So my website says we're changing things up, but if you're interested, feel free to reach out to me. Now, I'm going to start with some of my favorite slides, and these are from Matt Wade. I did not do these. Shameless plug for him. He does not pay me to promote his stuff. I just love what he does. This is the Office 365 group. So when we're talking about Teams, Microsoft Teams is again, the frosting on the cake. What is the cake? The cake are all these other capabilities. So Microsoft gives you a toolbox full of tools that help you do your job, and not just chat, and not just call, and not just have meetings, and be able to turn on your background and be in a room full of people virtually, whatever. That's not what Teams is about. Teams is a collaboration space. It's meant to be where everybody centralizes their work in context and helps them to work. And so when you create different elements like a planner board or a Power BI, you're actually creating an Office 365 group. And that Office 365 group is enabled with an Active Directory account, so you can email each other. It has a SharePoint site, so you can share your files. And you can start with that, and then you can teamify, what they say, teamify that group to add the Teams layer on top. But what a lot of people don't realize is, oh, I need a stream video portal. Well, they don't realize they created all this other collateral too in the background. So knowing that, I think, is one of the biggest things as you're getting started to go a little further into Office 365, is to make sure if I'm creating a Yammer group, guess what? I created a SharePoint site, a Power BI portal, a planner board, all the way across the board. Okay. So Jump to 365 is Matt Wade's site. If you want to check him out or leverage these, feel free. He's also got his periodic table of Office 365. And I don't even think this is the up-to-date slide because there's been stuff added to it since then. But it's really nice the way he's broken it down into the different, like task management. If you look at the different tiers, these are the way we manage tasks, and this is how we communicate, and the different tools that we have, because there is a crossover of a lot of these tools. So how many of you do tasks or have to-do lists, task lists, and things like that? Yeah, everybody put their hand up, right? All right, so do you do that in To-Do? Do you do that in Outlook? Do you do that in Planner? Do you use Microsoft Project? It depends on who needs to work together, right? Is it just me? Is it me and Richard? Is it me and Richard and Joy and Dan? Across different organizations? Who are we working with? So knowing what the tools are, my dad was a mechanic, and when I first got my car, he gave me a little red toolbox. Little red toolbox that had a screwdriver, a wrench, basic tools, right? Well, as he started to teach me how to tear apart an engine, I needed a little more than that. So he gave me a little 2-drawer rolling thing that he would offload, like kind of hand me down his tools. He has 4 of those big red drawers with all the tools, torque wrenches, things that I'll never need. Right, so when you're first starting out in Office 365, people see that little red toolbox and they think that's all there is to it. When there's actually a great big red rolling mechanic box with a whole bunch of tools in there for you to use, okay? So use the right tool for the job. I could nail in a nail with a screwdriver. It's gonna take me a long time. It's not the most efficient tool for the job. So let's use the right tool for the job. All right. Let's get down to business. I'm going to switch over to my demo environment. And why did it not? That's weird. Let's try that again. Shortcut Shari. Window P. Did you all know about Window P? Mm-hmm. Can't. It was working earlier. Wow. Can't display topology during a remote connection. I might have to go the other way. Window P. Duplicate. Didn't you love it? Is this what happened to you earlier, Richard? I saw you using a... There we go. Okay. So I have a demo environment, the famous Contoso, right? And I'm Megan in this environment. I like to start at Office 365 because often the clients that I'm working with, they got Teams. Somebody put a shortcut on their desktop and they don't understand they can actually go to office.com and log in with their company credentials, and they have all the other tools too. So anybody had that experience or like mind blown? Okay. So you're like, I don't do anything technology, so some of this is brand new for you, right? That's totally fair. So down the left-hand side, there's some of the tools, but at the very bottom, lower corner, if you can see in the right way down here in that corner. Do you see that little cube? That takes you to a page that I think everybody should visit periodically, because Microsoft is evolving all the time and they're bringing new tools back to us, like Microsoft Lists. Everybody's excited about that. I've been using SharePoint since it was called Content Management Server, and it was like, ooh, Microsoft Lists. I'm like, yeah, that's SharePoint. It's been there forever, but it's pretty and it has a nice little icon now. So this gives you not just some of the tools, all of the tools that are released for your organization. And some organizations have turned things on and off. So this demo environment has absolutely everything turned on. So if you go to do the same thing, you may not see all of these icons, right? But here's all those tools in the toolbox that not only let you collaborate with other people, but these are the tools when we're saying, spoiler alert, nothing lives in Teams. This is where all that stuff lives. If we're sharing files, they're either in OneDrive or SharePoint. If we're working in Microsoft Lists, it's in a SharePoint site. Those can be put on a tab. If we're adding a planner board to a tab, it actually lives in Planner. It doesn't live in Teams. Teams is what brings it all together and lets us work together. So we're going to talk about some of these as we go along, but keep in mind it doesn't live there. Right? Now, Teams itself, when I work with new clients, and thank goodness, I have two scenarios. Usually they come to me and they say, Shari, put the cows back in the barn, please. We made a mess. Anybody had that experience or feel like that at work, right? Everybody did what they knew at the time, the best that they knew at that time, and we can't fault them for that. But what they did without that knowledge is make a big mess, okay? The other one, I have some new ones now that are just now going to the cloud. I'm like, oh, thank goodness, we get a clean slate. But they don't know. They're uneducated on what's available to them. So it's starting from scratch. So asking the questions. When I'm working with people in Teams, I say Teams has three primary functions: communication, collaboration, and content, the 3 C's. Okay. So communication, how have we traditionally communicated? And I'm giving you a hint on the screen. Until you get Teams, how have we traditionally communicated? Go ahead. Outlook, email, right? All right, so there's two kinds of email users. There are filers and there are pilers. How many of you are filers? Folders, right?
Inbox 0.
There you go. But for me, that's out of sight, out of mind. I'll forget. I claim residual gestational brain damage. Each one of my kids took half my brain with them, and it never came back after they got older, right? So for me, I had everything from everybody, all my different clients coming into my inbox. And in order to get my head around things, I had to create folders so that I can compartmentalize them and see them in context. And I spend more time triaging my inbox than actually getting anything done. Anybody feel that way? Okay. So having those conversations in context and having all that in one place is one function for communication, right? Okay, so how do we translate that to Teams? When we work in Teams, we have the who, the what, and the how. The who is the team. Who needs to work together? Who needs to collaborate? Who needs to communicate? Who needs to share content? Okay? The channels, I see this all the time. They replicate their file structure from their network drive and make those the folders. Does anybody feel that way? I've seen that? Okay. So they don't understand what's sitting behind Teams. And when I'm looking at posts in here, I'm looking to have a conversation in context. So I direct people to make their channels. What are you talking about? What are your work streams? What are the conversations about? Because we have a lot of flexibility in how our files are structured, and we'll get to that here in a minute. We don't have flexibility in what we're talking about, right? So when we're talking about the Mark 8 project team at the top, we're talking about design. We're talking about digital assets. These are the same thing as those Outlook folders. Now, the nice thing about it is somebody in Outlook got their hair's on fire. They need something, but it's just got bogged down in 200 other emails from the other clients and all the other topics that people are talking about, and I can't get my head around it until I have the time to triage my inbox. That's not making things productive. I'm not going to get anything done that way, right? But if they were to have it in teams instead, I can focus in, like Joy was talking about earlier, I can focus in on my channels. The ones that are important to me, my job in that market project team is not the reply all for the market project team that I got in my Outlook and then I've got to put it in folders, right? When I'm ready to go get caught up on the go-to-market plan, I'm going to get caught up on those 2 messages that are flagged there that probably have notifications on them. I'm going to go to the digital assets web and figure out what's going on there. I don't care about research and development. I come and do it after that. But if somebody says, hey, in R&D, we need to take into account or some of the things we found that will help me go to market, then I might want to go over there, right? I'm going to go look at it when I have time, not when somebody sent me something. And use @mentions to make sure they draw my attention to it, right? So this, having directed conversations and teaching people, have the conversation in context. Anybody else want to say OPA? Yeah. Okay. Very much. All right. So that, to me, is the teams. The teams are centered around your conversations. They're not centered around your files. And let's talk about why. All right. First thing I want to talk about is, the communication piece. This is where we communicate as a team. If I want to communicate as a person or with a group of people that are not a standardized, to me, these are the more informal. We're talking together, right? Lori and I are talking together. I don't need the peanut gallery in there. I just need to have a conversation with them. Or maybe I have a quick project that I need us to work on. I want to share a file and collaborate with them on that file. So if I go out and I say, I need a new chat, so I'm going to create a new one. And let's say this is to Nestor. And Teams etiquette, A, always greet them. B, tell them what you need. And C, give them a reasonable amount of time, right? You would never walk up to somebody's desk, slam a file on their desk and say, help me right now, and then take over their next 45 minutes. Anybody feel like that when people chat with them? They feel like they want you to drop everything? All right, so etiquette. Say, hi, Nestor. Do you have 10 minutes, or 19 apparently if you can't type, minutes to help me with this presentation, right? And I'm going to attach the file from here. What are my options when I attach the file? What does it say there? Okay. OneDrive or upload from my computer. Now my computer can be the N drive, the K drive, it's those network drives too. It's not just the hard drive on my computer. So in order to collaborate or share content with people, I have to have it in a shareable space. I can't share it from my N drive and have you collaborate with me. I can't share it from my documents on my computer and have, well, you can now because it syncs with OneDrive if you have this set up, but that's a whole nother story, right? Let's not get into the weeds of that, right? But in order to share it, I need to have it in a space. Now, do I have a space already because we have our teams established who needed to work together? Maybe. But if I don't, this is just something you and I need to knock out this presentation with you for something we do next week. I don't need all y'all in there, in my stuff. So I'm just going to share it from here. Even if I upload it from my computer, so I'm going to go to my files. Okay, I don't want to edit. I want it to open. There we go. And I want this one. This is why I'm a keyboard shortcut person. Touch screens don't always work. All right, so I have this file. It's uploading it, and I want him to share it with me, open it, and edit that file. Okay. So where do you think, when you share files with people, where do you think they get shared from? Where do I have control? OneDrive. OneDrive for business. That's an important distinction, right? So remember, OneDrive is one of the tools in our toolbox. So people ask me, what is OneDrive? What is SharePoint? What is Teams? Here's my analogy. OneDrive is that file cabinet that sits underneath your desk. When we were in a paper world, I always had a little file cabinet. I got to organize it the way I liked. I could make my little tabs and my colors and make sure that my pendaflexes were all pretty. You know, anybody have their hanging files? Yeah, everything color-coded. That was me. And then I go to my husband's and all the papers are just shoved in the drawer. Okay, so the OneDrive is your space. You get to decide. You have the key to it. You can unlock it and say, we need to work on something together, and I share the file with you. I take it back, put it back in the drawer, lock it up, right? Okay, so same thing with OneDrive. When I uploaded that file, anybody know where it went?
Into a folder.
A folder. Any of those folders stand out to you?
That's called Teams chat files.
Microsoft Teams chat files, which actually doesn't show up until the first time you share a file when you share it with the chat. That one right there. All right, so how many of you are folder people? All right, if I just upload from my computer, it puts in this random weird little folder called Microsoft Teams chat files. Eventually, this is going to be a big mishmash of disconnected stuff. Right? So if it's a temporary home and I share it from here, fine. But my recommendation to people is, my other option was to share it from OneDrive. So I'm going to upload it to OneDrive first and then share it, because then I have control over where it lives. Okay? So tip number one, don't just share it in chat and have it upload it. Put it in OneDrive and then share it. All right, so notice over here that it says shared. It's just me, this is like not calibrated. Like, okay, it says shared. So automatically, when I uploaded that file, it changed the permission of that file. And it has a link that shared it for that person. So they can access that file at any time. Great. I go out to Teams. Nestor and I co-author. Did you know you could do that? Edit the exact same document at the exact same time? Okay. We're going to co-author. We're going to edit that document. Thank you, Nestor, for your help. Get out of my stuff. No touching no more. Right? Okay. What are my options from the Teams chat? Open in, download, or copy a link. No, I want to boot them. Get out of my stuff. Okay, but guess what? This doesn't live in Teams. It lives in OneDrive. Permissions are controlled in OneDrive. So if I want to kick him out, I'm not going to do it from here, but I have to know where it went when I shared it to begin with, and that's the big mystery for most people. Do you have a question? Yes. Who's got the cube thing?
Right here.
When you're going through this with customers and with people who are learning this, do you teach them about the Files tab in that chat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, 100%. Always, right? Because, and also the files in the left rail, because that's the history of everything. Because people are like, I don't know where it went. I don't know, where it got shared from. Good question. I love that. All right, so if I want to kick him out, if I've given him a direct link, then it'll say their name specifically. But because I uploaded it to the chat, I'm going to hit stop sharing. And it says anyone with a link can edit. Do you see that? So if Nestor forwards that link to somebody else, even though they're not in my chat, they can actually change. They can go in there and edit that file if Nestor did that. So that's another reason why just sharing it directly and uploading a chat, not necessarily a great idea, because you don't realize it's creating that open link that anybody who has it can access that file, right? If I want to change that, then I would have to go in here and remove it and add it back in. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing that with him. And if it's not going to remove it from the chat, and it doesn't say anything here, but if he were to try and go and access that file after I've booted him out, it'll say you no longer have access to this file. Okay. It's also, to your point, in the file history. So the left rail over here, you'll see the files. That's where all of your files, your history, collaboration on anything within Teams, either the chat or the Teams channels, it will show you here where that content. So to see how this one's in there, it says Megan B's OneDrive. So I can see where that file was shared from. Okay. So if Nestor were to share a file with me, where do you think that in the chat, maybe he comes back and says, thank you, can you help me with this presentation? Where does that file live?
Hopefully in his OneDrive, maybe in a SharePoint site.
Right? It all depends. It depends. So if we're talking purist here, it's in his OneDrive. Now we wrote Richard into this, and Richard comes in, and he shares a file. Where's that file? It's in his OneDrive. So when you share a file in chat, so chat equals OneDrive. That's the short story of it all. The bad thing is Richard wins the lottery and runs away. He had that presentation that he worked on no longer shows up, or it says you don't have access to this because he's been gone. Good plan, bad plan?
Not so great.
Not a good plan, right? If you win the lottery, you're like, see you bye. Yeah, I'll be in Barbados or somewhere, right? So yeah. So that those of us that still need access to that file, if they don't realize, it never creates a central filing cabinet for people to work in. So where's that central file cabinet? Anybody have an idea? Kind of like when you walk into an office, they have those big cabinets with all the drawers, right? That's SharePoint. Okay, so I need to move that file somewhere where anybody, let's say we're making the presentation for a conference, we're doing ours, you're doing yours, you're doing yours. Now we need someplace to keep all that stuff. Where does that go? Does it stay in my drawer? Do I want 20 people coming over to my drawer and digging around in that all the time? No. We need to put it in a shared file cabinet that everybody has access to. So we're going to go out and look at SharePoint. Now, there are two kinds of SharePoint sites. Technically, there's really 3 or 4, depending on how you look on it. There is a SharePoint, so I'm going to go out to the SharePoint homepage. There's a communication site. I talk a lot about documentation management. To me, the communication site is where your currently published documents are in like an intranet. But if I go, it's really slow to react on this demo for some reason. And I'm clicking twice, and then, of course, I'm bypassing. All right, so an example of a SharePoint site is the landing. So I'm just going to type that in. So maybe that document that we've been working on needs to go out, and it's something that everybody in the organization should have access to. Am I going to put that in that locked file cabinet that's in my department? No. Am I going to put it in my OneDrive? No. So we have published content that goes out in the public space where everybody can access it. Everything is security trimmed. Behind every SharePoint site are document libraries. So when I decide, after I'm done working on that document, who's the next set of people that need to see it? Who's my next set of players? I'm stealing that term from you, by the way, because these are team players. Who's the next set of players? Is it just my department? I'm going to put it in that file cabinet. If it's anybody in the organization, I'm going to put it out on these communication sites. Right? So the Mark 8 project team, do you remember that from Teams, right? So I'm going to go back. Where do they keep their stuff? So I'm just going to search. Find their stuff. An entire SharePoint site that sits behind the scenes from the team. So if you create a SharePoint site, it does not create a team. If you create a team, it does create a SharePoint site. So you can create a collaboration space that does not require teams. If there's no conversations to be had, if it's just file storage, or if it's managing a process like accounts payable, you submit expense reports, anybody in the organization should be able to submit them. In accounting, I don't want them in my accounts payable site. I'm going to create a space where those documents and that process is managed that anybody has access to, right? So this one is where we actually are working. Let's look at the site contents. So behind the scenes, this is the one that sits underneath Teams. You see we have site assets, we have documents, we have style library, we have design ideas, events, and site pages. A full collaboration space that, by the way, has been around for over 20 years. You're welcome. So people, over the years, I always hit this wall where people are like, SharePoint sucks. I hate SharePoint. SharePoint, like, it looks like SharePoint. So what, right? SharePoint rocks. And I'm like, your deployment of SharePoint sucks. And now they're like, I love Teams. I love OneDrive. I'm like, suck it. It's SharePoint, people, right? Welcome to my world after all these years. But you notice that there's only one document library. Okay, if you know about document management, you don't put 5,000 documents. So this Mark8 project team probably had an N drive, an S drive, a K drive, or something behind the scenes where their files were stored. And now they're going to go in and they're like, we want it all in Teams. And they dump it all into the channels of Teams. Okay, searchability, just killed it. Naming conventions, probably not. Folders upon folders upon folders upon folders upon folders, which is not happy in the web space, right? So many reasons why that's not a good idea. And I could go into this as an architect. All right, look at these folders that are in that document library. Where did we see those names before?
The channels in the team.
They're the channel names from the team, right? So when you create a channel in a team, it automatically creates a corresponding folder in the SharePoint site that lives behind it. Where do you think all those files that are sitting below there, how do I access those in Teams? Right? What's to keep me from going in here and saying, I need a new folder for presentations, and click create? Right? Where am I going to see that in Teams? When you create a folder in the SharePoint site, it does not create a corresponding channel. So when I'm recommending people are structuring their teams, the channels are around the conversations. The files are managed here. And guess what? You can have multiple document libraries in a SharePoint site and add them to the tabs in a team. So this is work in progress. This is not your long-term storage. It will get unwieldy. You will not be able to find things because there's too much stuff in one big document library. It's like my husband's file drawer in his desk, right? God bless him. He's got many skills. Organization is not one of them. Okay, he's got other superpowers. So if I go back out to Teams and look at that team again, Design Assets Web, do I have a channel for presentations? I can't see those, right? So what I recommend is you have your posts, which is your conversations. Your files are here, which corresponds with that folder. This is only your current work in progress. Because let's say I'm creating a policy or a procedure. What is Teams meant for? Collaboration, working together. Once that policy or procedure is completed or finalized, do I want people to be able to edit it anymore? No, right? It's finalized, no touchy. So I'm going to go out here and say, where's my version history? How can I lock it down? Do you see how short that little context menu is? There's not a lot apparent from Teams, but remember, this doesn't live in Teams. Where does it live? It lives in SharePoint. So I'm going to go back out to SharePoint, same document library, same files, click the little dot, dot, dot. Look at all the capability that I have in SharePoint. I can see the version history. I can check it out. I can check it in. I can revert back to history. I can create automated processes like approvals. I can lock it down, change the access and make it read-only. But do I document by document when I have to mark things read-only when they're completed? How tedious is that, and what is the likelihood that somebody's going to forget? Yeah, they've got to remember, they've got to be trained, and they've got to know that's the process. If there's any kind of turnover on that team, they're not going to know. So this is where we work. This is where we collaborate. In the SharePoint site, we're going to create other document libraries. So I'm going to add an app, and I love what they've done with this. I just want a document library. I have to go to Classic Experience now to get that to come back. Going to add a document library. Maybe this is where all our presentations go. So instead of having another folder that's in Teams that I can't access my content, I'm going to create another document library. I'm going to take that library and under the settings, we're going to change the permissions because it defaults to the same permissions as the site itself. So I'm going to go to the permissions for the document library, stop inheriting the parent. So you see how everybody has contribute, right? And then I'm going to change all of these to read-only instead. Now I'm done when my presentations are done and I'm ready to file them away because this is not current collaboration. We're going to just move that file from the working files into the storage. Okay? So we go out to the documents. Let's go back to, I like the back. Give me the back button. Go to the document library. Let's say this is the elevator pitch is completed. I'm going to move this file directly into Market Project Team, Presentations, move it here. It's now locked down to read only for everybody in the site. All right, so I have other presentations that I need to do that may be similar to that one. So what do I do now? It's in a read-only library. And maybe I don't know where that is in Teams. So remember, Teams, we have the who needs to work together. We have the what are we working on? Across the top are the how are we going to get that work done? So if we're managing a project or task, I'm going to add a planner tab. If we need a OneNote notebook to share our meeting notes and our reference information, I'm going to add a OneNote notebook to that. But in Teams, if I need access to those archived documents, I'm going to go to the go-to-market plan, add a tab, and this time it's going to be a Sharepoint library. So there is, Sharepoint is one of your icons. And it's going to ask where do you want to get it from. So Market Project Team. And here's my presentations. And I've resurfaced that same content onto a tab that's not the files or the working files. Okay? It's done. I've filed it away. I put it in the file cabinet. Everybody has access to it. They can go look at it. They can't change it anymore. But if they need a copy of it, they can always go out, download it, change it, create another one. Right? We don't want to hide it away from them. We also don't want to put 10,000 documents in subfolders of subfolders of subfolders of a team, and then folders that don't correspond with any channels, and then files that are sitting in these little orphan folders that nobody knows where they're from. Anybody have that situation? Yeah. Well, and that's because people don't know. People that are SharePoint people like me, I'm going to go put stuff in the document library. Oh no, I locked that library down. You cannot create folders in that library. Right? And it's like you don't directly upload anything there. If it's from Teams, you go from Teams. But you can go to the SharePoint site to interact with it or create workflows or that type of thing. All right. That makes sense? All right, so we're talking about those other tools, like Planner. Maybe I need a planner board for this go-to-market plan. I'm going to add a new tab. Let's do Task by Planner to do. This is the M400. I don't know, Dan, do you still miss Dan Jump and Jeff Hay like I do? All right. I'm going to M400 project launch. I'm going to add the tab. Here's my planner board. I'm in, what is it, somebody said I'm in like 60 different teams at lunch? Is that what you were saying? You're in
Not me, but definitely guilty.
Only 16?
only 60, right?
0.
No, remember, I work at Microsoft.
Exactly.
We use tools wrong.
Because you get them pre-beta, right? It's not even fully baked when you guys get them. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Right. And they don't onboard us.
Yeah, I both covet and cringe when because you know what's coming, right? Okay, so I have to find out. We did a conference last week, and at one point, the attendee or the participants and the chat panel were side by side, and it blipped, and I changed the view, and I went back, and it was gone. Is that coming?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, as a trainer, that's huge for me, right? Okay, just I keep forgetting to ask you. All right, so in Teams, when I'm creating my channels, I'm going to add all those tools to the top. But remember, those don't live in Teams. They're in our toolbox. If I want to access this plan and I'm across 60 different teams with 10 channels in each one, they all have a planner board, how do I keep track of everything I need to get done? I can't do it from Teams because there's too many things. There's a couple of options. You can add the task by planner and to do here on the left-hand side, on the left-hand rail. And this is your roll-up view of planner. And so this is the my tasks view of planner. So across all of my plans, what do I need to get done for my active projects? So this is the stuff that's assigned to me, and you can say all active, completed, filter. But what plan was this for? Sometimes this is not a helpful view either. If you go out to the toolbox and from the waffle, remember, where's the waffle? And choose planner. Here's the planner hub. Here's my tasks. And I want to group it by plan, or I want to group it by progress. So upper right-hand corner, you can see there's a little drop down. They'll let you say, I need it by due date, I need it by priority, and it helps you to get an overall view of everything you need to get done, regardless of what plan it's in. Because it doesn't live in Teams. It lives in Planner. Okay? Everybody, does that make sense? Okay, cool. Same thing with OneNote. All the OneNote notebooks. You can search across notebooks. Now, somebody made a point earlier about their business challenge of their, managing their files. From SharePoint, or even from Teams actually, but I'm going to go to SharePoint for demo purposes. You can synchronize your content across to your local computer. Oops. I'll just use the OneDrive because it's already synced. All right, so I have access to my OneDrive. It's OneDrive Contoso because it's the OneDrive for business. Here's all the same content that lives in my OneDrive, and I can share it from here. Do you see the little icons with the cloud and the cloud with the person? This is content that is on my OneDrive that's synchronized to my local computer. I can jump on an airplane. I ain't doing go-go in-flight because that stuff, now that everybody streams all their things, forget about it. You're never going to get anything done on that. But I can work on this documentation. As soon as I'm hooked up to the internet again, it's going to synchronize all those changes. And that's a beautiful thing. You can do the same thing with SharePoint libraries. So the content that sits behind Teams, you can synchronize those document libraries to your local computer until somebody deletes it, right? Because anything I do here, as soon as I get back on the internet, it synchronizes everything that I did, including deleting content. I don't want it on my local computer because I'm done with it, or my hard drive's full and I'm like, I don't need all this stuff. They have to understand that what you do here affects the cloud as well. So if I were to go in and delete, it's like, oh, I don't need this on my computer anymore. It's in my OneDrive. I'm just going to delete this, right? Yeah, and how many people do you know actually read those little warnings that tell you, oh, by the way, it's removed everywhere.
It says everywhere.
Everywhere. It needs to be red and flashing, right? Because they're like, oh yeah, another pop-up, got it, whatever, go away, right? So those files that are now missing in action for everybody, even if,
Disappear.
yes.
Mysteriously.
Yeah.
Or maliciously destroyed
And it wasn't me. I didn't do anything. I deleted it off my computer. I didn't delete it for everybody, but you did, right? And so that's what we love about the recycle bin. So in every site, there is a recycle bin in your site settings. Oops. There we go. Another one, I think that they bury the site settings link. I don't want the workflows. Site settings. There's a recycle bin, and it sits there for a period of time. And everybody asks me, how long does it sit there? Well, it depends. It depends because the recycle bin, the way it works, it's either when it's full, it starts dumping the older things first, or it's a time amount set by your administrators. So one of the two. So that file could sit there for 6 months if that's what my retention policy is, and until you go in and delete, realize, oh, I didn't want to upload all those, I'm going to delete them all and move them, and now you filled up the recycle bin with all your 10,000 documents. So the old, stuff I deleted 2 days ago is now pushed out.
I'm bad.
You're a bad guy. You're a bad guy for doing that. Right. So there is actually a second stage recycle bin. So I talk about the recycle bin. This is like the trash can that sits underneath your desk. You wadded something up, you threw it in the trash. If you had to, you could fish it back out. Right. Well, then the janitor comes in and takes all the trash out to the dumpster. Back in the day, the dumpster, you had to you had to go dumpster diving to get your stuff back. And IT doesn't like to have to dumpster dive. Anybody ever had to do that? Yeah, there's a second stage recycle bin. So you can put on your little hip waders boots yourself and go dig around in the second stage recycle bin and recover things from there. So even if your people have deleted their content, anybody that has owner rights on the site can actually go back and rescue it if they had to. All right, do I get a hero for the day? Okay. I'm sorry?
A lot of users and tell them that they only have 30 days to recover.
It's a valid thing to apply to them. Yeah. It enforces better behavior.
Exactly.
Yeah, but if it's not actively being used, sometimes they don't realize in 30 days, or if somebody, like uploads everything and deletes it and fills up the recycle bins, then that doesn't help either. All right, so they call me Shortcut Shari for a reason. I'm gonna give you some of my favorite shortcuts, okay? A couple of Windows ones. Window V, how many of you are using Window V? Okay, Window V does collect and paste. Do you ever have to go copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, and switch your windows? Okay, so Window V, the first time it'll say turn it on, yes. And you can copy, 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 paste, 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 paste. So Window V lets you collect and then paste it somewhere else. I got ooh, yay.
I'm doing a bunch of documentation right now with screenshots.
It's great for it. I'm not trying to take away any of your thunder. Microsoft has a huge collection of shortcuts like this.
Who's that?
Microsoft. She's Jennifer Gentleman.
Yes.
Jen MSFT, Microsoft. Go follow her. She has a ton of shortcuts, Windows keys, things like that that are just ridiculously useful. Yeah,
I bow down, but we all have, I learn new ones all the time, right? All right, so in Teams, a couple of my favorite ones. Manage your team, because this is a Teams P-A-N-E. It can quickly become a Teams P-A-I-N if you have too many teams and too many channels. If you right-click on the channels and the teams, you can actually hide them. You don't leave them. You're not deleting your membership in them. It just puts them kind of tucked away and let people know, hey, if you need my attention in this, you need to mention me, because otherwise it's kind of hidden, right? But you can actually drag and drop your teams in the order that are most useful to you. So the active ones that you're working on move to the top. And then hide and show the channels that you want to pay attention to. But here is the best kept secret of Teams. Everybody knows we can go and search. And you glossed over this in yours. I'm like, no, tell them how you did that, right? So I'm going to move this little blue bar over here. Oops. Get this out of my way. All right. So everybody's like, oh, I need to see stuff from Nestor. So I'm going to type in Nestor. Do you want people, messages, or files? So that shows up in the search pane. Great. Now I'm going to go to my activity, and I want to focus in on just the people that have mentioned me. Look at all this. It's going to take me forever to get through that stuff. So I'm going to hit the little filter here. and say I only want to see the ones where I mentioned. Great, now it's focusing my team's PANE on where I've been mentioned. But that's a lot of clicks for me. Or if I want to go to a specific team, I go down to the teams and then I scroll down and I'm like, okay, where's the channel I'm looking for? Anybody feel like they're constantly surfing up and down in that pane? All right, so the search box, there's a little phrase right at the end of that that says, look for messages, files, or more. All right, we know how to do that. Or type / for a list of commands. So / mentions takes you to your feed, filters it by where you're mentioned. / go to, type the channel name, takes you right to the channel or the team that you want to go to. I do / BRB, I gotta go to the bathroom, I'm in a meeting or whatever, I want to go into be right back mode automatically because otherwise away happens 5 minutes later, right? I'm going to do / BRB, puts me in be right back mode. Explore these. These are the best, and it's getting longer because it didn't used to fit in that window. What's your favorite one?
The newest one, /pop.
/pop?
Pop out your chat.
Oh, see? So /pop, this is pop out a chat into a window. Now I have a separate window so I can have them side by side, right?
If you want to start chatting with Nestor and pop out that into a new chat with Nestor, it's right there.
That's awesome. See, I haven't used the /pop, but I don't usually chat. Ooh, if you like things, say ooh, then we know you like it. Right? So that's / that's the best kept secret of Teams. All right. Anybody else have their favorite thing they want to share? We have 10, we're at time, but.
Windows I.
Windows.
Oh, Windows period.
Windows period. Uh-huh. Okay, so how many of you are emoji people?
I like my emojis.
We are very happy emojis.
So I'm going to let's go to chat.
Wow.
And this is in any application, by the way. It's a Windows shortcut. It works in any application, not just Microsoft stuff. Windows, so the window key and period. And do you see how it brings up the little emojis? And I want to say happy. And it gives me a little list of happy emojis. So you can type them in there. I do that on my planner boards to put a little icon on the tabs. So it's like, oh, this is travel, or this is follow-up, or whatever. Yeah, very cool. Anybody else have another favorite?
It's Control-Shift-M.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Control-Shift-M.
Control-Shift-M?
That's mute to and unmute.
Didn't do any.
When you're in a call.
When you're on.
Oh, when you're, mute. Control-Shift-M, does it mute you? Yeah.
You have to, for that one, you have to have the Teams app in focus.
Yep.
Meaning you have to have the Teams app clicked on.
And it doesn't work in the browser version.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so if you're multitasking, you've got,
On
your
desktop
own
version
tabs
only,
on the
yeah.
screen. Right.
Awesome.
Multitask during Teams.
I do when I'm trying to listen to Dan.
All right. So I want to thank the sponsors for having us and for all of you for joining me today. What an awesome event. So happy to be back in person and get hugs and smiles from the people that I know and meet new people that I haven't had an opportunity. So I want to thank you. And again, always you visit, I think they're all gone now, but hopefully you got there. Some awesome swag at this, right? Not just pencils and, stickers that dude, I got some awesome stuff.
What headset did you pick?
I'm sorry?
What headset did you pick?
Oh, I got the neck one. So that which is perfect because I train all day long and sometimes I get cauliflower ear or I'm monitoring something. I just want to walk away. I can't if I'm wired, so I'm kind of pretty excited about that one. Yay, thank you for picking me, by the way. All right. Any questions or comments? What was your favorite thing?
I loved all the shortcuts.
I'm sorry?
I love all the shortcuts.
I love all the shortcuts. Love it. Cool.
That's why she's shortcut Shari.
It's stuck. Yeah. Any favorite things too? Go ahead. Is it a lot of this is new for you, right? Did it help? Or did I confuse you further?
Yeah. Just
Okay.
trying to think, because I'm not in the IT role, this is just what we use, and so that's why I was like, oh, well, trying to understand it, and not really understanding it, but then still trying to figure out, well, how would I use this, and how would this apply to me kind of thing.
Right.
Because I'm like by myself, you know, like I don't collaborate a bunch of people on something.
Yeah, so the comment, so we don't have the mic on. The comment is that she works alone a lot, so she doesn't collaborate with a lot of people, so some of the functionality is not useful to you.
Yeah.
And as a contractor, I feel the same way because I don't have teams, but as a contractor, I also subcontract from other companies.
Yeah.
That then I have to, then I have to mute it all because it's too much chatter, right? So, yeah, it just all depends on the environment and what, you again, use the sharpest tool for the job.
Yeah.
If I have to use email, I'm going to use email. Right? By the way, there's an Active Directory email exchange box behind every team too, and it can show up in your. I always create, but here's another tip. I always create my teams from Outlook and create a group first and then teamify it, because otherwise it doesn't show up in the Outlook as an inbox anymore. They have to PowerShell to get it to show up over there again. Good, they changed that setting. So I always create my teams from Office 365 and then teamify them. Look at his face.
We definitely changed that setting because lots of people were confused by the Outlook group sitting there doing nothing.
Yep. Yes, sir. You have a question?
If somebody wanted to see you present at an upcoming event or something, where would be the next place they could catch you?
Shameless plug. We have an amazing event coming up in Cabo. It is a virtual event, and it's multilingual. So we've got both Hispanic and English-speaking presenters on a lot of amazing topics. That's going to be November 12th. Okay, great. And I'm also speaking at the Minnesota Admin Day. That one is going to be my new managing it's actually document management. Like, let's talk about actual document management, not just where to put stuff. And then this is the one I'm most proud of. I am what used to be the Sharepoint conference. I don't know if you remember Caruana when she got up on the stage at Ignite. She's like, "Mom, I made the big stage." Well, that was my moment when I got picked to speak at what was then Sharepoint conference. They've rebranded it now. That's in Vegas, December 7th through 9th, and I'm speaking at that one too. So. Thank you all, and please, a lot of our speakers, people think that, oh, they're speakers, that we want to talk to you. So feel free to reach out. Don't feel like we're unapproachable. I know any of us are willing to answer questions, and a lot of times the questions you ask me give me fodder for my blog or something else too. So feel free to reach out. All right, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Yay. Shortcutshari.com.